How you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. Today is Sunday Comics. It's a little late today because of technical difficulties. It was technically difficulty for me to get out of bed on time. Uh, I have some exciting news. I reached out to Brian Bow of Alterna Comics, Wolf and Batsy, about being on my show, and he was surprisingly very enthusiastic. I say surprisingly because who am I? And he's a big comic book guy. So he thought it would be a lot of fun. So then last night I said let's test it out before I make the announcement, and let's see if we can actually do it, because I don't know what I'm doing. So we and I'm glad I did, because it took us about 40 minutes before we could actually get talk to each other. So if you've seen a couple of weird little announcements on my channel, if you subscribed and hit the bell or whatever, and then they were deleted. That was me and Brian trying to figure out if we could do this. And then we talked for 3 hours. I didn't get to bed till 3 o'clock in the morning. Man, is he fun to talk to. It's funny because we both said goodbye. We gotta get to sleep, and the next thing you know, it was 40 minutes later. It was fun. So I stayed up way too late for a very fun reason. What an exciting guy. What a fun guy. What a great guy. So that's Brian Bow of the wonderful comic Wolf and Batsy. That'll be Tuesday, this Tuesday coming up. I don't even know the date, the 7th at 7 Eastern Standard Time. Oh, I already got a thumbs up. Hey, can you hear me okay? Everything look okay? All right, so let's talk about the Fantastic Four. This is 25 cents. This was issue 164, the world's greatest comic book magazine. The Coming of the Crusader. Okay, look at this wonderful cover. I've always loved this cover. This is by Jack Kirby and Joe Sinnott. So, at at this point, I think Joe Sinnott was the inker for Fantastic Four. It's like doesn't matter who was drawing it. Joe Sinnott was the inker. And for those of you who may not know, let me Sunday Comics. Here's my coffee. Let me get my brain pumping. Oh, that's good coffee. Oh yeah. Excellent. For those who may not know, Joe Sinnott and Jack Kirby were longtime collaborators. They were partners for the longest time. Matter of fact, they both created Captain America together back in what, I don't even remember the year of that Captain America got created, but their working relationship goes back at this point decades. And Joe Sinnott is my favorite inker for Jack Kirby. And for those of you who've been watching my channel for a long time, you know I love Jack Kirby. I love Jack Kirby. I love Joe Sinnott. I actually saw Joe Sinnott at a comic book convention. I I took my wife to New York Comic Con when we first got married, and I think it was the second one in the Javits Center. I'm not sure about that, and I was nervous. I didn't think my wife would like it. You know what I mean? And she tolerates me with the comic books. She listens at me when I pontificate about comic books. She's a trooper. There's no other way to describe it. She's an absolute trooper. And so we went to the comic book convention, and she loved it. Believe it or not, she loved it to it became like she was like pestering me, like, "Are we going to go to Comic Con?" But anyway, that's besides the point. But while we were at Comic Con, we saw Joe Sinnott. I Yeah, I think it was we saw Joe Sinnott, and she just said he looks like a sweet old man. So you know, and I actually froze. I couldn't say anything to him. It was my very first case of a what do you call it? Fan freeze. That's what I'm calling it. Fan freeze. There you go. That's a good name for it. And I froze, and I didn't say anything, and I'm still upset that I didn't say anything. We also saw Carmine Infantino, who looked exactly like my grandfather. It actually brought a tear to my eye when I saw the guy. And you know what else brought a tear to my eye? There was nobody at his booth. Guy's a freaking legend. Nobody was at his booth. How embarrassing is that? Other people, I don't even know who they are. Lines around the door, but Carmine Infantino, nobody at his booth. So I went over and I actually talked to him. And I told him he looked like my grandfather and he could care less. But anyway, let's get back to this. So this is Jack Kirby and Joe Sinnott. So the Coming of the Crusader. So who is the Crusader? Well, that's just it. this comic book kind of got retconned and changed and everything, but at the time I absolutely loved it. So this is okay. When this comic book came out, this was Rob Grayson Marvel Boy, and Marvel Boy changed his name to the Crusader. So Marvel Boy was an original, timely character. Timely being Marvel Comics' original name. When Marvel Comics started, it was called Timely Comics, and Marvel Comics was the name of one of their comics. Excuse me. And Marvel Comics #1 debuted the original Human Torch, Jim Hammond, the original Human Torch, and 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 uh, and Namor McKenzie, the Submariner. And I always thought it was kind of cool. I don't know if it was planned or one of those happy accidents that the first two Marvel superheroes were of water and fire. That's just so cool. And then later on, Marvel Boy. And Marvel Boy was a colonist of Uranus, not Uranus, Uranus. And he had these little bands. I'm sure they have this origin inside the comic. And he would, these lights would flash super bright and blind people. Then he'd beat the crap out of you while you were blind. And he was just a run of the mill character. This was the light symbolizing the light of his bands, and he was a superhero. Red and blue with the yellow. It's total superhero colors. And I liked him, and I didn't know anything about him until this comic book came out when I was a kid. This is how I learned about him. So I always thought he was crazy, and you'll see why. And then they brought him back in a back issue, and I loved that issue. I read it to death. I should break out that. It's a reprint of an original Marvel Boy comic, and I loved it. That was the first time I saw Golden Age artwork as a kid. Yeah, now I'm being remiss, and I didn't get that comic. Oh, geez, now I'm mad. All right, but anyway. So this is bringing back Marvel Boy into the 70s for the first time after being absent. I think the 50s was the last time he was around. So let's check it out. Okay, we got cash or prizes. And here we have a wonderful splash page as far as I'm concerned. And let's look at the edition before I do anything. Can anybody just let me know if I sound good, if I look good? I see there's 3 people here. Fantastic Four. What year? I see copyright 1975. Okay, cool. 1975. Wow, unbelievable. And here we have a wonderful splash page. Let's look at the Crusader Syndrome. Roy Thomas, writer, editor. Roy Thomas was, I jokingly say, but I mean it, that he is a walking encyclopedia of all things comic books. This guy knows everything. I think he was one of Stan Lee's first hires. So like Stan Lee, I think just inherited. Well, Stan Lee's uncle Martin Goodman owned Marvel Comics, and Martin Goodman put, like a 17-year-old Stan Lee and Stan Lee quickly worked his way up the top. Then he got drafted, went into World War II, came back and took over the comic company again. So I think he had already like a bunch of employees, and then Roy Thomas was one of the first. So he was like the first kid. So I think he was 25 years old at the time. So he's like the second generation of comic book creators. And he grew up, I think he's like the first official fanboy to get hired. So meaning that he was a kid who grew up reading comic books, loved comic books, and then said, I want to be a comic book guy when I grow up. Excuse me while I take a sip. Gets the job, and becomes a comic book legend. And then we got George Perez, guest artist. So I think this was the beginning of the George Perez run. This might have been a test. So I don't know the inside baseball. I don't know if somebody was late and George Perez stepped in, and then the reaction was so good they hired him permanently, or if they were just like thinking about hiring him, so they gave him a test to see how it goes. But either way, man, I'm so glad it happened because I love the George Perez, Joe Sinnott run on the Fantastic Four. This was my introduction to the Fantastic Four, so how can I not love this? And then, of course, Joe Sinnott embellisher. Little inside information. When they say embellisher, that means a little bit more than inking. Inking is usually if you saw that movie, was it Mallrats? When one guy drew the comic book and the other guy, inker, and everybody used to call him the tracer. It's a little more than tracing. George Perez will do the pencils, and then the inker. If you saw my How to Draw Comics the Marvel way, it'll show you what the inking does. It adds shade. It adds ink, and so you do trace over all the lines, but you got to know which lines to use because we're talking about sketched pencils, and then you got to fill in the details. So the inker could really really destroy artwork or really enhance the artwork. So if you're the inker, you're doing standard inking chores. If you're embellishing, you're doing slightly more. So I guess George Perez was a rookie at this point, and they figured they'd let Joe Sinnott, really, the seasoned veteran, help out the new kid, and a legendary run was created. And then we got Petra Goldberg is the colorist, Petra, and John Constantine. Total, look at this. This is just like total Marvel Legends, featuring the totally unexpected, wholly unasked for, not yet, uneventful return of the real Marvel Boy. Okay. So look at this. We got typical Fantastic Four shenanigans going on. So here we got Sue. You could see a little bit of the rawness in George Perez's pencils at this point. At this point I always thought that the heads on the adults were just a little bit too big, and they kind of look like baby heads. And you'll see with Sue, it's the worst, but still amazing. And then classic George Perez details in the background. So she's testing her force field, and the thing is getting repelled. So what happened is previously Sue used her force field powers to she used the Thunder Horn to increase her force field powers so that she could destroy a force field created by I forget the bad guy, and Maximus the Mad, duh. And it worked. She shattered his evil force field, destroyed his plans, but it also increased her force field powers. I'm always thinking about comic books and things like that, so I'm thinking like this was Sue leveled up, and this is the in-story explanation of her, going from 8th level to 9th level, and her powers increasing. I'm always playing role-playing games, so I'm always thinking about stuff like that. So that, there you go. 2 ways to look at. And then Reed over here is coaching his wife. A little bit of encouragement there. And what's going on? He got thrown to the ground by the power of her force field. And who's that? That's Alicia Masters. Who's Alicia Masters? That's the Thing's girlfriend. In her first appearance, it was remarked that she looked exactly like Sue Storm, except for the hair color. And it's like a memory hold thing that Ben always had a unrequited love for Sue Storm, and Sue Storm picked his buddy Reed Richards and got married, and kind of broke his heart. They don't really reference that too much in the modern storytelling. So the Puppet Master used his niece Alicia. So Puppet Master's real name is Philip Masters. He used his niece Alicia Masters as a lure to get the Thing away from the Fantastic Four, to separate the most powerful member so he could defeat the Fantastic Four. The thing is, Alicia's blind, so that's how he's like, what's wrong? He figured out her curl looks a little different. So there you go. So that's Alicia. She's supposed to look like Sue Storm. And who's that? That's Franklin. That's Reed and Sue's firstborn son, the little boy Franklin. And you'll see a little bit of limitations in George Perez's artwork when he draws children. This is such a George Perez thing. These slice panels. So now he's enjoying it. Look, he's got a little smile on his face, and he's gonna go and wallop Sue. And she ducked. She turned off the field, and he smashes the wall, breaks everything up, and she's just having fun with this. Don't be silly, my darling. She's like, look at this. I'm more powerful now. How could she not think it's cool? So now they're all teasing Ben. Franklin's making fun of him. Look at Ben fell on his head, and he's like, come on. So now he's like, come on, don't use your force field. Let's go. And he's roughhouse, and they're playing around. She's turning his legs invisible, and wouldn't that be weird? All of a sudden, your legs turn invisible, And now they're fighting around. And now Reed is saying that he's getting weaker. that was a plot device going on, that Reed is slowly losing his powers, and I think it's like 4 more issues from now he loses his powers. Now I don't know the story, but I think they were setting up like they were going to replace Reed Richards in the Fantastic Four. That's the rumor that I heard. Like, I think at this point he was the least popular member at Fantastic Four, and they were going to shake it up by replacing him with somebody, and then like they chickened out at the last moment. Thank God, Reed is awesome, and he got his powers back in issue 197. So here's the big old happy family. Everybody's together. Look. Doesn't the baby just look a little freaky? Here we got Slim Jims. Slim Jims. Uh, is anybody commenting and saying anything? Because I'm just curious if the chat is actually working. Okay. All right. There we go. 6 likes. Thank you, everybody. And here we got these heroes in action. Here's an action move and sound just like Combat Heroes. Oh, that's right. There was like a little spring in the base, and when you it would shake and make like a little machine gun noise. Pretty cool. I think I had them as a kid. So here we have Johnny showing up dressed like a whatever, a weirdo, and he's going. This is 1975. This is happening. It's happening, duds. He shows up, and I like the spotlight on him. It's just the things that your mind just accepts because it's comic book, right? This spotlight. Look at that outfit. So he's saying he's going on a date. He's got a groovy date with a groovy chick, and he'll be seeing everybody. And Ben's making fun of him. You're carried, and he's like, yeah, whatever. And he jumps out the window and flames on again. I thought he had to say flame on to use his power, and he's flying away. I don't know. I love that skewed perspective, and reading that How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. Hey, good morning, Abrax. Thank you for showing up. I'm sorry that I was late. I don't know if you caught at the beginning, but I was engaged in comic book discourse until the wee hours with Brian Bow of Wolf and Batsy. It was so much fun. Good reason to stay up late. Good reason to be late. So here he is flying away, and I love the little panel within a panel, and then just look at the Jack Kirby. The shame we never got a decent Fantastic Four movie. Yes, Alex, I agree with you, and I am my word of the month is trepidatious. I am trepidatiously, concerned about the MCU movie. The Fantastic Four have been done dirty more than any other comic book property. What was it? 3 lousy movies, 2 lousy cartoons. Oh my God! I'm so nervous. The Fantastic Four are my favorite, bar none. They're my favorite comic book of all time. My favorite superheroes. The Thing and Superman are my 2 favorite superheroes, and then Reed Richards is number 3. So I'm emotionally invested. I'm scared of the Fantastic Four movie because this is going to crush me if it's bad. Good morning, Lacey. Thank you for coming. Thank you. And I'm so nervous. Like I said, the Fantastic Four are my favorite, and with the way the MCU is going, I do not have high hopes for this movie. And the funny thing is, I was just saying to Brian Bow last night that when I saw that the first Thor movie was coming out, I told my wife, this is going to be awful. There is no way they're going to do Thor justice. They're going to change it so much that it's not going to be Thor. And then the movie came out and it was wonderful. And I actually got emotional about how good that movie was. The first Thor movie, it was as if, yep. The first Thor movie, it was like Jack Kirby. They changed what I thought was okay to change, but so I agreed with some of the changes that they did, and some of the changes that didn't make sense to me were so minor that it didn't matter. But I was so happy. And then I saw Doctor Strange was coming out. I said, there's no way the Doctor Strange movie is going to be any good. And the Doctor Strange movie was excellent. And again, the changes that they made sense, except for the ancient one. That to me is unforgivable. But what can you do? But I I really like it. So I have the same feeling in the pit of my stomach with the new Fantastic Four coming out. So let's just hope that my feelings of this is going to be awful are wrong. So again, look at the buildings of George Perez's Jack Kirby inspired designs, and here he is flying over. He's got the unstable molecules ridiculous cowboy suit, and he's walking down there, and ta-da! Namely, she's a living doll, Frankie Ray. So this is the first appearance of Frankie Ray. Why is that important? She comes back later and becomes Nova, the Herald of Galactus. Spoiler alert for 40-year-old comics. Here we got free $1 million cash. $1 million cash. You just go to the Funhouse in Newark, pick it up. Yeah, they will add them just in time to make yet another bad movie. I'm pretty sure it was 5 years ago. It would have been yes. I saw a meme that made me laugh and also made me cry. Was a good news. Your favorite property is getting made into a movie. Bad news. It's 2023. Yeah, they're still mad about the pen. Yeah, Doctor Strange. Lacey, Doctor Strange. Those original Steve Kirby. Yeah, you're mad about the change to the ancient one, and I'm worried about the change to my mouth. The original Steve Ditko, Stan Lee, Doctor Strange why is that a difficult sentence to say? Or outstanding, and if anybody can sit down and read them all in order, it is one colossal cosmic story. Build up, middle, and resolution. And then Steve Ditko left when he was done with what he wanted to do. It was awesome. And it was, no joking, it was the inspiration for all cosmic powered universal. Yep. Oh, you started with them. It was the inspiration for everything big, grandiose, cosmic, religious, spiritual in comic books ever since, without a doubt. Just drinking coffee, and so good. So what was I saying now? Oh yeah, so this is the first appearance of Frankie Ray. So they're going on a date, and they're talking about how I read everything he was in that was available. Yeah, good. I don't blame you. I was introduced to them in these little digests. Yep. I'm not going to argue. It was so and you know what's funny? Steve Ditko was asked by some college students, "What drugs do you take that helped you inspire your artwork for?" Hey Eddie, how you doing? He was asked, "What drugs did you take that inspired you for your Doctor Strange comic?" And he was insulted by the question. Steve Ditko is a very notorious straight-laced person. And he said, "I don't need drugs. Drugs, I don't know these exact words, but he's like, I don't need drugs. I have an imagination." Only losers need drugs. And he was just absolutely insulted by the suggestion that he would take drugs. So here he is going on a date with the groovy Frankie Ray, and she's checking out the sky, and then boom, flash a light, and they're all pointed, and look at that guy. "No, you simpering clown." What are they saying? "Look up there in the sky. Who the devil is that?" "No, you simpering clowns, not the devil. Quite the opposite. I am more than any on this. I am more than any. I more than any can't talk. I more than any am on the side of the angels. You may call me the Crusader." Look at that splash page. I wonder who owns that page. Hyperion? No, this is a Marvel Boy. This is Rob Grayson, Marvel Boy, but is it? We'll talk about that at the end of this. So, we'll go to commercial. No, don't be sorry. What are you being sorry for? Okay, let's look at cartoons. Be taller. I wish I was taller. I wish I had a baller. If I had a girlfriend, then I would call her. Well, karate. Gotta get a karate mustache. Charles Atlas ad. Kung Fu. Get a Kung Fu snake. Get this penny. I just love these ads. I know it's silly, but I love these ads. So the Crusader is going, and he's just attacking everybody. Why is he attacking? "I've been sworn a holy wall against all that is evil, corrupted society. Cute. I will not resist until I've laid low the forces of greed and injustice." He's like, "What's going on?" Johnny Storm's just watching this lunatic. "My friends, you may call me the Crusader, but there are others, the wolves among you that leeches, the bloodsuckers, and they shall only call me Death." So bam, he's just shaka-booming buildings. and just reckon this poor guy is I thought he was in a bathtub. He's having his morning Sunday comics, guys. Crusader. Now I was with you, but now you're messing with the guy when he's having his Sunday comics. Is his wife, and he's just like, "Hello, Calvin McClary. Who are you?" He's like, "I've come much further for either you can imagine." So he's gonna kill people. He's gonna kill the corrupt. He's an absolute raging zealot in whatever unforgiving, no nonsense, worse than the Punisher. So Johnny Storm's like, "Oh, blast it! I got no choice. I've got to flame on." So again, I thought he had to say flame on, and he bursts into flame. Frankie Ray freaks out because that was her thing. Is she's pyrophobic. She's afraid of fire, and she didn't know that Johnny Storm was the Human Torch. Johnny Storm wanted to meet a girl, go out with a girl who didn't know that he was the Human Torch, to see if she would like him, or if she was just like a superhero chaser or a celebrity chaser, or as the Rolling Stones song says, a star effer. So he wanted to try that, and you know what, I. I could understand that. You know what I mean? You don't know if people like you, to people like me, because of my famous YouTube channel with my 418 subscribers, you know what I mean? I can understand that, my groupies, So he flames on, and he's going, I just love the perspective. This I always thought was weird, that he could turn off sections of his flame. So he's turning off his arms. She's just like, oh no, I don't know what's going on. And he catches this guy, and he puts him down. And he's like, you interfered in cosmic justice, blah blah blah. Now he's fighting. Look at this panel, Tam, so cool, so cool. And he's like, I'm stronger than you. He's throwing rocks. And keep in mind, he's already displaying powers that Marvel boy didn't have. I like you for my basement. Me too. I like me for my basement too. Come on down. Come on down, Lacey. We'll play some games. We'll come on down, play some games, read some comic books. You too, Eddie. You come down too. Everybody. I built this basement to have people over and play games. And that's what I did last night. I played a game called King's Dilemma. All right, so he melts the rock, and got Spow right in the face. And Human Torch is holding his own pretty good. Holding his own. I love how George Perez always has like a dynamic path. He never just flies in straight lines. And then he uses his original power, and he blinds the crap out of Johnny Storm. And here is the letters page. I always check out the letters page, because I always like to see if I recognize any of the names. See if any Bruce Spitz. I don't know any of the names. Every once in a while, I just get a kick out of like you see a creator who started out as a letter hack. I'm starting to wake up now. Wizard of Oz. This is a Treasury edition. These were like huge, like Time magazine sized comic books that were just so freaking big. And I had a bunch of them, and they got destroyed. They're just too big, for a little kid. I had 6 brothers, sisters. There's always chaos going on in my house. So my Treasury edition comics got destroyed, and I started rebuying them, and I still don't know how to store them. So I got huge bags and boards. I bagged and board them, and then I just lay them on top of my top comic book, because I have shelves of comic books. I just lay them on top. I don't know what else to do with them. I can't even imagine a box big enough to store them. And then where would I put that box? They're just so big. They're a great idea, but I think they're unwieldy in practice, and I don't think they've been used since the 70s, that size for a comic book. See, look, he's flying around. He's blind. He doesn't know what to do. Frankie Ray is freaking out. He's yelling at the guy that he came here to murder. And look, he's just going to smash him with the boulder. The wife is crying. Don't kill my husband, And he's a bad guy. Because look at those pajamas. Only wealthy, corrupt, evil bankers, who do dastardly deeds and twirl their mustache, wear bathrobes like that. So there's the wife. She's crying. He just throws the rock at Johnny Storm. Failed. He failed. Look at that. Look at that. The guy's just laying there dead. And he's just like, you felt the wrath of the Crusader, and he teleports away. Keep in mind, he's showing powers that Robert Grayson, the Marvel boy, never displayed, and just left to cry. Look at that. Frankie Ray is like, what's going on? So he knows he's out of his league. He summons the Fantastic Four with the last of his ability. He got beat so bad that he's flaming off in the sky, and he's falling. I like that. Failable, normal. At this point in the Fantastic Four history, they all had like logical weaknesses, like you know, exertion causes Johnny Storm's flame to go out just a little bit quicker. You know, Reed now obviously Reed is losing his powers now, and Sue got the power up, but they all have like Sue's force field is always collapsing when like somebody big like the Hulk starts smashing it. Just cool logical concepts. Nobody was like super duper like DC superheroes. Like they were like godlike beings. So look, there's this is such a cool panel, and it's all it is the Thing's hand. Just a story in that panel. They're all freaking out. Reed stretches. He's like, I gotta do it. I gotta save Johnny. And he's like, I spoke too soon. He's powers are fading. The strain is becoming unbearable. Heart pumping, every muscle. I always thought that was weird. How is his heart pumping when he stretched like this? And he got him, and he I'm gonna fall down hard. I'm gonna fall down. And Sue, because of Sue's powers were extended, she was able to reach the distance and save them. Now, here's a little funny thing about Sue Storm's invisibility powers, and I always thought this was cool. And to be honest, I didn't think anybody really explored it too well until John Byrne took over. But she is able to control the density of the force field. Just imagine how cool that is. She has, like, to a lesser extent, Green Lantern abilities, and she even tried that. She would make tongs and stuff like that, but she couldn't really shape it as well. But she would make a force field, and she could make it soft and pliable like a cushion, or she could make it like adamantium hard so when a Thing punches it, if it's super hard, it'll damage his fist. So now she's making cushions with her force field. So cool. Such a cool and here's Reed. He's having difficulty retracting his legs. Poor Reed. And here's the Fantastic Four. Look, Sue is just pushing everybody out of the way with soft force field. This is some serious business. They got a super powered murderer guy on the loose. Here we got the Marvel bulletins. This is in-house news with item, and then they'll talk about something. Marvel mini items, they'll talk about something. So each one of these paragraphs is a different topic that they want to share, and then these are Stan soapboxes. You couldn't pay me to read those as a kid, and now I read them. It's like I said, and I get emotional when I talk about this. I miss Stan. I know people are going to call me a freak for saying this, but Stan was my friend. Why? I spent so much time with Stan Lee. He was my friend. Stan Lee doesn't know me from a hole in the wall, but I spent so much time reading about his creations, and reading what he has to say. So, as a kid, you know, you just I'm getting emotional, but think about this as a kid. Your dad wants to go do something. You're like, Dad, oh, Mom, leave me alone. And then you're an adult, and you don't have your parents around, and you just wish, you did that. You went to that mall one time, or you did that one thing with your parents one more time. So now I'm reading these, and I get nostalgic, and I get emotional when I read this. The Twins of Evil. So we got the Abomination and the Wendigo, and believe it or not, I think this was the first time I encountered both of these characters was over fruit pies. Maybe that's why I always hated them, because they like fruit pies, and fruit pies are of the Abomination. Also, very clever writing. They're subtly letting us know that fruit pies are an abomination. And Wendigo got his powers through cannibalism. So this is horrible. You eat this, you get a cursed monster and abomination. Good subtleties there that Hostess Twinkie people. God, that's on par with Alan Moore in the writing over there. So now they're putting up force fields to protect everybody, and he's back to his groovy clothes, and he's explaining everything that happened. And Reed is trying to stretch so he could see where he went. And like, we got to get this. We got a super powered murderer. And so Reed's on the hunt for the Crusader. Good luck. We're liable to need it. So the second issue, which I wasn't smart enough to dig out, because I wanted to talk about Marvel Boy. So this was supposed to be the return of Rob Grayson, Marvel Boy, who was driven insane by his powers, and he unlocked these quantum bands, and it drove him nuts. And then they brought back Marvel Boy in Agents of Atlas, which I showcased a couple of weeks ago. And they said, again, Marvel Boy he was a human. He was a human scientist who was summoned to Uranus, not Myanus, Uranus, and he, you know, flourished there. And he met the Uranians. The Uranians are like weird, evil, not evil, weird alien-looking creatures. They look like Lovecraftian amoeba type things, and and they're like telepathic communal beings. And there was also Eternals that lived there. There was a race of humanoids that lived there. At the time, they weren't Eternals, but they were retconned into Eternals. And then they were even retconned even later into like criminal Eternals. So the Uranus colony. So the colony on Uranus, not Myanus, was a penal colony. A penal colony on Uranus. Let's all giggle like children. And that's where the Eternals put like the eternal criminals. And that's where he grew up. So there was the Iranians, these alien like communist beings and criminal Eternals, and they tricked Rob Grayson into becoming a superhero. Now at this point, Rob Grayson, this is a retcon now. So now Rob Grayson is like put into suspended animation, and they capture another human and tell him he's Rob Grayson, and these negabands make him go crazy, and he goes onto Earth, calls himself the Crusader, and fights the Fantastic Four because they brought back the real Rob Grayson. So this was originally supposed to be Rob Grayson, and then it was retconned into a criminal. And then when the Uranians found that the criminal Eternals did this, they eradicated the criminal Eternals. And now that was all told in Agents of Atlas, and then there was an Agents of Atlas spinoff called The Uranian, because that's now what Marvel Boy goes by. So the original Bob Grayson, he could come back unblemished as a good guy, and then he became more and more alien, more and more weird, and then it was revealed that he has been surgically altered to be a total alien, and he just like it's just like the skin is fine, but all of his internal organs and everything else have been changed because to live on the gas giant that is Uranus. Uranus is a gas giant, and like through his belly button, like a tentacle comes out, and that's how he eats. It's I don't know. I thought it was cool. It was a fun retcon. So that's my comic for today. What else was I gonna say? I said I was gonna talk about something else. Anything anybody want to talk about? I know this is like quick for Sunday comics. So for those of you who missed the beginning, I was late today because I stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning. Why? Brian Bao has agreed to be on my tiny little silly little YouTube channel. He's going to be on Tuesday night. We're going to go live Tuesday night at 7 Eastern Standard Time. He is the creator of Wolf and Batsy. He's the writer and artist of Wolf and Batsy. So I said, let's. You got time? Let's see if we could. If this works. What if Tuesday comes and we can't do it? And then it'll be embarrassing. He's like, good idea. So we tested it. I had to update something on my end. He had to update something on his end. And then when we got to each other, like, can you hear me? Can you hear me? We're doing all that nonsense. And next thing you know, we started talking. We talked for 3 hours. Such an easygoing, cool guy to talk to. It was a lot of fun. Talked to my harm. I was like, wow, we're using up all our topics. What are we going to talk about Tuesday? And he's like, don't worry, we're getting along. We'll talk again on Tuesday. So if you want to, come on Tuesday with your questions, concerns, whatever about Alterna Comics, Wolf and Batsy creator Brian Bao. So I think at that I'm going to bow out because I got a lot of stuff to do, and I'm already an hour late with doing all my Sunday chores. So oh, did I mention the redhead that was afraid of fire? John Byrne took over and made her the stepdaughter of Phineas Horton. And who's he? He's the guy who created the original Human Torch robot, android. So, and then she falls into a vat of chemicals when she was a kid, and got flame powers, but Phineas Horton hypnotized her. That was one of the hokier things John Byrne did, if you ask me. And she becomes Nova, and she has like flame powers, and she has adventures with the Fantastic Fourth Wall. And then when she meets Galactus, she like becomes like enamored and in awe of this cosmic giant, and she volunteers to become Galactus's herald. And again, Galactus spares the Earth. He takes Frankie Ray, Nova, and then I don't know what happened to her. She's still around, but she kind of like fell in love with with Galactus. So it was implied that she was going to be the most noble, not noble, the most loyal of his heralds, because she's doing it out of love, not compulsion. And then next thing you know, there was a million other heralds. So I kind of lost track of what was going on with that. I got to do some research on that. Okay, so I'll give a couple more minutes to see if anybody wants to talk. Anybody? Bueller. All right. Wow, only one cup of coffee on today's episode. And I'm finally waking up. All right. So thanks a lot, everybody. I'll see you guys tomorrow with the regular video. Tuesday, there'll be no video until 7 o'clock. The 7 o'clock live chat will be the Tuesday's video. And then, Wednesday, I think I'm going to go live again with my friend Pete. I don't know if anybody saw my conversation with Pete a couple weeks ago. Pete, what a trooper he is, because he was all prepared to talk about Daredevil Frank Miller run. He had a collected edition with notes and everything like that. And then I said, let's talk about the Fantastic Four. And then I went live because I'm a child. And he just rolled with the punches. So afterwards, he was just like, oh, he's like, look at this. I had these. I was like, oh, man, I felt bad. I was like, all right. So, we'll do it again another Wednesday. And you got the floor. We'll talk about whatever you want. So I got to make up to it. Gave the guy homework and then pulled the rug out from under him. So we'll do that. So there'll be a lot of live chats this week. And I'll try not to be late and mess up everybody. So thanks a lot, everybody. Fantastic Four. I didn't realize this when I pulled this out, that this was George Perez's first Fantastic Four. Look at that. Just awesome. I think I will follow up next Sunday with 165. How about that? We'll tie up the second, right? So next Sunday I'll do Fantastic Four 165. Thanks a lot, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow, and I hope to see you Tuesday. All right. Bye-bye.